concerned prevention of what we call systemic corruption. You have to be able to dismantle corruption before it becomes endemic in the systems. But you're quite right. You have to be able, you have to investigate and prosecute individual cases of corruption under PRECA. And that is where we, as a country, we have made some progress in terms of institution building. I think, for instance, the establishment of IDAC as a more independent body. But the capabilities that are required have to be built, rebuilt, because they were also hollowed out. And that's going to take time. Member Breitenbach and I were chatting a little bit about the challenges that the current NDPP has faced in her tenure. Almost an impossible challenge that she had. So on the one side you need prevention, on the other side you need what we are now calling in the country consequence management. You're never going to win the fight against corruption until you're able to show our people that there are consequences. I can make a fancy argument about why it's important to deal with prevention, why you need a whole government, all society approach. But the public has to support our efforts. And the public will only be convinced that our efforts are sincere and that they can have impact once they see brazen cases of corruption, whoever they may be, are properly investigated and prosecuted. We're not seeing that yet, but I also think that the investigation, that there are problems with PRECA. The PRECA definition is too complex. That makes it very difficult to prove. Our prosecutors are often, there's an inequality of arms. On the other side, they're often very clever SCs on the other side, well-funded, who know how to milk the system. Well, maybe I'm being a little bit unfair, but who know how to defend their clients. And often their clients are criminals. So there are always challenges in the fight against mafia-type cartels. Many of you will recall, well, maybe my generation, but I mean, Mr. Al Capone was never prosecuted for his crimes. He was prosecuted for tax evasion, but they put him away. So we are going to have to get smart about dealing with the gang violence in the Western Cape now. These are very wealthy people. They preside over sophisticated business structures. They can hire the best lawyers, and they are funding young unemployed people in desperate communities where the services are inadequate, where development is failing. That's why they are susceptible to recruitment. So if we want to fight crime, we also have to ensure that we work towards fairness in our society, that we have a developmental agenda that empowers our people with hope, with futures, because otherwise we will lose the battle.
Now, just when we thought that crime intelligence through Brigadier Lieutenant General Khumalo was beginning to get on the right track, he then gets arrested by IDAC. What are your views or your thoughts on that?
Well, I can't comment on that matter because I do not know from any briefing I've received, and it might not even be proper for me to receive such a briefing about the matters that are being investigated by IDAC. I understand that that a question is being raised about whether this is a prosecution for a trivial matter, for an unimportant matter of an appointment or not. But I know that you are going to be interviewing, well, the IDAC is going to be appearing before you, and they should answer your questions in that regard. But it speaks to the instability in SAPS. I mean, so we're going through a moment where action that is taken by another body, you know, adds to the concern and the instability, if you like, because General Khumalo was the head of crime intelligence. You know, he's now out on bail. It's of course very worrying, and so we've got an acting head in crime intelligence. It's not an optimal situation, to say the least, that to be in. We need stability of leadership in crime intelligence, so that we can start to implement a serious reform agenda.
But what at the very least you can.
May we take Honorable Sangweni?
Sorry, is just a quick clarity. Good morning, Minister. Who is the acting head of crime intelligence? I just need that clarity. Thank you.
I think he's also Lieutenant General Mahoti.
Okay. So, Minister, at least the one thing we can probably accept, that it is of grave concern to you that the head of our crime intelligence has now been arrested by a body which is an anti-corruption body. So the presumption is that he was arrested for some kind of corrupt activity.
Well, I'm indicating I don't know what the answer to that question is. IDAC will have to...
No, I just... Yeah. Just the concern that yeah. Now, because I just wanted to ask you a comment on this, that you again have, that's in SAPS, he or she is appointed by the National Commissioner, but you also have IDAC that falls under the NPA, and is it an issue of competing jurisdictions where they have fights over turf territory? Is it a problem of coordination, or is it a problem with the appointment procedures and accountability?
I think that this particular prosecution raises a separate question. The question you put to me earlier about whether this is a proper prosecution, and the concerns that I would have, especially if it's a proper prosecution, that the head of crime intelligence is being investigated for corruption. And IDAC is going to have to answer that question, on which I obviously can't comment. IDAC's role, IDAC is part of the Department of Justice, and it was established to be independent precisely because independence is critical in the fight against corruption. You don't want senior people with power who might be involved in corruption to be able to interfere with a prosecution, with an investigation and a prosecution of corruption. That's why IDAC has been set up. Maybe not, it's not yet fully compliant with the constitutional mandates, but that's a genuine reform to establish IDAC as independent and to institutionalize a system of prosecution led investigations. That's why it sits in the Department of Justice and not in the police. And honourable members will remember that we used to have, was it called the DSO, but the colloquially it was called the Scorpions.
Scorpions, yes.
That was the model that was implemented. It had a lot of success, but it also there was pushback, there was a reaction, and there were concerns about the manner in which it went about its work. But in effect, and then we dismantled that institution. I think that was a mistake, and we can see that clearly now, given where we are now and the problems we're facing now. We need more of those capabilities to dismantle and investigate corruption. It's an existential threat to this country. So IDAC, I think, was an important initiative of the Department of Justice and the Presidency. It was an important step forward. I don't think that IDAC is yet in a position to fulfill completely the promise that is invested in it to get the results that the country so urgently desires when it comes to these matters. So there are constant complaints about the slow pace of investigations and prosecutions and so forth. But it is not supposed to be part of the police. That's my point. It is well situated and located as part of the Department of Justice, precisely because it needs to be independent, which is what Clinista said, and because because we know that prosecution-led investigations get better results. And we should be looking carefully at whether it has all the resources and capabilities. I think the institution is right. Its location is right. The fact that it's more independent is right. But is it in the position to get the results yet that we need? There's a question about that.
So throughout your address almost this morning, or your evidence, we've got fundamental issues with the resources and capability, almost in every aspect of policing. Okay. Can I ask you a soft question now?
I thought that's what you were doing, but go ahead.
No. Well, you don't need to spend much time on it. We had Deputy Minister Boshelo here yesterday, and I think she explained quite nicely how things for them as deputy ministers have changed since your appointment. So maybe just talk to us briefly about the role of your deputy ministers.
Okay, so my take is, they've been of enormous help to me, and I see them as a team. I mean, it's the minister that exercises executive authority, not the deputy ministers, but they have important roles. So first of all, as a constitutional matter, they are appointed by the president. It's a large department. I've been incredibly busy since being appointed. I don't think I would be able to manage all my commitments without their support. And it's not just attending meetings of the portfolio committee, attending to member statements when I'm not able to. I have delegated, so I should say about both. I mean, Deputy Minister Matale is very experienced, a former premier. He's been in the department for 7 years. He's been a tremendous source of insight and wisdom for me. Remember that I also, was in the position where I inherited an office from the previous minister. I couldn't talk to the previous minister. There was no normal handover, which was my decision, because I wanted police management to understand that I've got fresh eyes. And then Deputy Minister Bushelo, also a very experienced political leader. Both of them are members of the NEC, of the ANC. You don't get there, without being formidable, having formidable political leadership qualities. Of course, they were both there before I came. So even with Dr. Bushelo, I have learned a lot from her. So I've asked her to lead an important project. And we will put a team together to support her, a team of experts and so forth. But I'm worried about gender-based violence. We all are. I think the country has done a lot from a policy point of view, including a policy implementation point of view in this matter. We have, I think most police stations in the country have victim support capabilities. Many of them, most of them do. Many of them perhaps don't. I mean, that's exactly what I want her to look at. And then, of course, we have persistently high levels of gender-based violence. And I have to say that just impressionistically, I'm not talking about the crime stats now. When I visit communities, I get reports and so forth, my sense is that a lot of this kind of violent social fabric crime in many of our communities is well, it's certainly a persistent problem. And that speaks to our development agenda. I think there are levels of desperation in some communities. So gender-based violence, we've got to look again and see what we've done, what we haven't done, and that's what I've asked her to do. So to put together a team to go around the country, all the provinces, all the facilities, and to come back with a report that we can table before yourselves to say where to from here. Now, that will take a few months. And we have to do that, together with the minister responsible for this area of work in the cabinet. But I thought, as from a SAPS point of view, that she should undertake that task, because I have confidence in her abilities to produce this report. And then Deputy Minister Matale, the responsibility that I've asked him to look at this intractable problem, apparently intractable problem in crime intelligence. How do you strike the balance between secrecy and accountability with respect to the secret fund? The ordinary rules of procurement are applicable to this extent. They have to comply with the Constitution, which says that it has to be transparent, the bids have to be competitive, and so forth. But some of those rules, in my view, are not fully, well, let me put it this way, the application of the Constitution to the way supply chain is managed to balance these two considerations, that's where the gap is. And that's a problem we haven't solved in the last 30 years of our democracy. In the old system, they didn't really have that problem to us because they were dealing with what they thought was a political problem, and they were serious about that. Okay, but now we have an accountability deficit. This issue that was the experience that we had with a certain head of crime intelligence with the initial M. We do not yet know whether that we have a system to ensure probity and accountability. I was before the Joint Standing Committee yesterday, and they were raising the same issue. So I've asked, this would require legislative reform, perhaps. It's quite a sensitive, complex task, and I've asked DM to deal with that matter, Matale. Now, otherwise, the pressures on the ministry to attend meetings of all kinds, including meetings here, are shared. We, as far as possible, I mean, I would not be able to manage otherwise. DM Matale was the one who was dealing with member statements yesterday, because I was busy preparing for this inquiry. He was invited by the Deputy Minister of Russia to go there, and he went. It was his first time. I asked him to go because the invitation was addressed to me. I couldn't go. And then Dr. Bashelo went to China, where she signed a memorandum of agreement. They are accountable, as I am to yourselves, under the Constitution. So I think that, of course, a lot depends on the relationship between the minister and the deputy ministers. Because as I've said, it's only the minister who exercises executive authority. In the end, it's the minister who carries the can. Right? And that maybe adds an element of complexity in the relationship or sensitivity. But we work very well together. I am committed to working with them. And as I say, they have been a resource, a source of advice for me, and that's how we will hope we can work, continue to work together.
I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. Sorry, Minister, I'm just checking with my my colleague. Yeah. I think we've covered the ground, Minister, that's in your affidavit. In fact, more than that. Thank you very much. Honourable Chair, that would conclude our section of the hearing today with the Minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, SC. Thank you so much, Minister. We are going to break at 13 hours. It's now 20 minutes past 12. I'm taking Honorable Sokanyile and Honorable Shongwe. Honorable Sokanyile, 20 minutes. Honorable Shongwe, 10 minutes. Thank you. Honorable Sokanyile, what are you saying?
No, I'm saying that I thought the senior council will finish before we go to lunch.
Let
But
me
anyway,
check.
let me,
No, it's fine. I hear your concern. I must not ambush you. Let me check if we are ready for a break. If we are ready for a break, we are going to take the break,
good.
and then we'll come back later. Yeah.
Let's start to a break. I always start.
Are we ready? Yeah. It's fine. Let's break. We'll come back at 13:30. Yeah, I want you to reorganize your facts. Yeah. This is my benevolence. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're breaking for lunch. And SC, are you coming back after lunch?